Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Marty Ross here, and we're having another conversations with Marty Ross MD this morning. This is our monthly morning edition. As you know, usually I'm having these in the evening, but the purpose of doing these 10 a.m. Central Standard Times once a month is to give a better opportunity for some of our members that are in different time zones. So mainly our European members, as well as we've got some members in the Middle East too. But also it gives an opportunity for some of the U.S. people that can't join us and Canadians that can't join us at night to join us here at this time too. So the way that these webinars work, as you all know, is you write questions to me and then I respond. And where you can write those questions is in the chat box function. I do that rather than have you actually ask me directly because it's a quicker way to get through the questions, basically. All right. And then as I'm answering the questions, I may call upon the person that wrote the question to turn their camera on and talk with me a little bit more to give me some more input so I can give the best response possible. The other thing then I will do at the end of the question after I answer it is I will open it up to see if any other people have comments or thoughts that might help the person answering the question. And also just if you have any questions as well too. All right. Usually I do not get through all the questions, just so you know, because we get into these conversations. I am creating a recording of today's event, and sometime this afternoon, I should have that edited and a synopsis created and get that out to all of you as well. You'll find the recording posted in at Lyme United on the left-hand navigation menu. There's an option there that basically it says Zoom recordings. That's where I wind up putting the recordings. So later today, you will be able to look again. And again, I'll include the synopsis. And the videos, the way I create them now, you can follow the synopsis and there's a timestamp actually in the video for each of the topics. I've got it handled now to be able to do it that way. So anyhow, without any further ado, I think we'll go ahead and get started here. Our first question this morning is from Colleen. Hello, Colleen. Let's see. Two questions. Not sure if you can help with this first weird one. This has been going on for many years. I always feel fatigued and can fall asleep at the drop of a hat. Yet nearly every night I experience this thing where I'll be so tired, having difficulty keeping my eyes open, yet at the very same time, I'm somehow resisting sleep. It's the most bizarre sensation and very uncomfortable, and I can go to the wee hours of the morning like this. Also, I'd like to work on my energy. With the smallest amount of exertion, I feel completely depleted, like my battery is always starting at 15% baseline, never fully charged. I was looking at your article on energy, but wasn't sure if I should try to address mitochondria. I've treated Lyme, Babs, Candida, finally got mold remediation done in my home, but remains are these issues. So I'm wanting to determine next steps. Okay. So Colleen, obviously there's two parts to your question. This feeling like what you're describing as I'm understanding is that you are very sleepy and you could fall asleep quite easily. And at night, you're having a hard time falling asleep, even though you're that tired. That's kind of, am I getting the first part of that question correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Can you answer me something? Have you ever had a sleep study done before?
About 15 years ago.
And did they find anything abnormal on that sleep study at all or not?
No, but I didn't do it normally. I slept on my back, which isn't typical for me. I normally sleep on my side, so I didn't sleep like the way I normally would sleep in it. You know what I mean?
Okay. And then because, often what people will do when they feel so tired, is they wind up taking things to stimulate them that have caffeine in them, for instance. Do you drink much with caffeine in it during a day?
Zero.
So do you have coffee or tea or what kind of things are you doing?
No, I just have water.
Oh, okay. You said you don't have caffeine.
Right, yeah, zero caffeine.
Okay. And then at nighttime, are you taking anything to help induce sleep at all or not?
No.
Okay. Have you tried things at night to help with sleep?
Like a very, very long time ago.
Okay, so you haven't tried any supplements, anything that would help in that fashion then?
No, not recently. Well,
Okay.
it's weird. Okay, so I actually fall asleep
Yeah.
I get really tired. I fall asleep around 9, just say, and then
Yeah.
I wake up like maybe 2 or 3 hours later. I wake up and then I have this experience I'm describing. So I do initially fall asleep, but then I wake
Yeah.
back up.
But it's like, you want to sleep, but your body just won't let you fall asleep after you wake up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I guess one thing to think of is clearly you've got some dysregulation in sleep-wake cycles, right? And
Mhm.
some of that, if you still have chronic Lyme or chronic mold toxicity going on, one of the big factors is that these increased cytokines that get produced as part of those conditions can disturb your sleep centers. Okay. So
Mhm.
you're fighting against that. All right. Additionally, having been ill, you might have just developed circadian sleep rhythm disturbances, basically. So, a couple things you might want to try on the sleep side is Research Nutritionals has a product called Circadian PM that has in it a number of nutrients that's useful at trying to get asleep and stay asleep. Okay. All right. And you would do like 2 or 3 of those pills before bed. See if that works to maintain your sleep. Just see if it does. Okay. All right. Make sure you take it at the same time each night. I'll show you the product here in just a minute. All right. And then more recently, and I honestly don't know from experience the effectiveness of this for your type of situation, but you might want to try it. The peptide company called Integrated Peptides has come out with a product called Pineal Pep, Pinealpep. All right. And so the pineal gland is a part of your brain, and its job is circadian rhythm regulation. And in response to regulate circadian rhythm, it releases a hormone called melatonin, which, if it's releasing it at the right time of night, is supposed to get you asleep and keep you asleep. Okay. All right. And so what pineal pep is it's known as a bioregulator. It's an extract from pineal glands of animals, and they've pulled out chemicals in it that are 2 to 3 segment amino acid segments that regulate the genetic expression of the pineal gland, so it is better at producing melatonin when it's supposed to, basically. All right. So what I would suggest is try the circadian PM first. If it doesn't work, then go a little bit deeper at trying to regulate melatonin production by fixing the pineal gland's ability to do that, or regulating with these bioregulators that change genetic expression so you get better release of melatonin by using the pineal pep. All right. Now, the pineal pep is going to be 2 pills at night. The circadian PM, I would do about 2 or 3 pills on that. All right. So I know there's a second part to your question here, but let me just do a screen share here so I can show you those 2 things. Let's see here. Let's share. All right. I get rid of that. Okay. So the circadian PM is here. It's this product. All right. And again, you can read through here more, but in terms of what's in it, it's got glycine, some valerian, even has a little bit of curcumin in it, which, remember I said, that can help with the cytokines that are disturbing your sleep. It's got some lemon balm, L-theanine, GABA. These are all good things. Okay. So, but try that first. All right. If that doesn't work, then again, what I would go with is this product called Pineal Pep, which is a peptide bioregulator product that improves genetic expression of the pineal gland, resulting in better melatonin and regulation of your sleep cycles. Okay. And this one, I think I told you 2 at night. I think that's what yeah. It's basically saying 1 to 2 capsules a day. I, to be honest with you, you could take this in the morning, but I would probably do it more at nighttime. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So those are some thoughts for that. All right.
Can
Then,
I say something? I forgot to tell you something, which was years ago when I did the sleep study, I also did a saliva test that measured your cortisol levels
yeah.
during the day.
Yeah.
And when they were supposed to be high, mine were low, and we're supposed to be low, mine were high.
Yeah, and that could still be part of how your circadian rhythm is even regulating your adrenal expression, for instance, too. So that's why I would kind of go at that level if you need to by doing the pineal pep.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. Then second thing. So one of the things that happens when you've had chronic tick-borne infections or you've had mold toxicity is you can get injury to your mitochondria. The mitochondria are your energy production factories in each cell. By some estimates, there's 300 to 400 mitochondria in a cell. And what happens is inside these mitochondria, sugar and fat are burned through a bunch of chemical reactions to create cell fuel called ATP. Okay. And when you have chronic infections, there's a lot of extra oxidation and even mold toxins that injure the covering of the mitochondria so it can't take fuel in adequately. Okay. Secondly, part of the way that energy is generated in the mitochondria is there's a process where ATP gets created by transferring and moving a bunch of electrons around. And that's something called the electron transport chain. Anyhow, the electron transport chain also gets damaged by all this oxidation damage. And so you don't get adequate electrons being transported either, right? So you get oxidation from mold toxins and chronic infection just injures these mitochondria, all right? So you can repair it. And there's two basic steps that I like to have people do. One is to rebuild that mitochondria membrane covering, as well as fix the damage to the electron transport chain. And what is useful doing that is a product called ATP 360. The main ingredient in it are the fats that make up the covering, okay, and can repair that damage, all right? And so, and that is 3 pills 1 time a day. There's also in that product is a bunch of nutrients that your mitochondria need to run. And in addition, there is something called PQQ that helps your body manufacture more mitochondria as well too. Okay, it works at a nuclear, at the genetic level inside your cells to help send out signals to make more mitochondria as well too. All right, all right. The second thing I would do, because a lot of this is oxidative damage, you need to fix, not only repair the fats, you need to be on an antioxidant to prevent more of that from happening while you're doing this repair work. And so I'd like to have people take the Trifortify glutathione. It's a liposomal glutathione by Research Nutritionals, and I suggest a teaspoon a day on that. Okay. Now, both of their products have had research done, and it's pretty impressive at the change in oxidation levels by being on their liposomal glutathione. Their liposomal glutathione has science that shows it increases your cellular glutathione levels by 40 to 50%. And why that's critical is there's a lot of glutathione products out there, but most of them are garbage. All right. They're not formulated in a way to get adequate absorption. The Research Nutritionals product, Trifortify, is formulated. They've got science that shows 40% improved absorption levels of glutathione in your cells. Okay. Their ATP 360 has got good science showing that when people are on it, there's overall energy improvements, I think, of 52%, and overall thinking improvements of about 30 to 40%. So they've got some science showing that as well too. Okay. All right. So that's what I would suggest for your energy issues. And you need to give it a minimum of 2 months of doing that to see if it's going to work. And if it does work, go an additional 4 months with that program.
Okay.
All right.
And then is there anything that it would conflict with?
No,
Like,
those aren't going to conflict with anything.
okay. All right. This is great. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you want to read a little bit more about, if you want to actually read something I've written about this, take a look at. So there's an article I have called Power Up Your Mighty Mitochondria and Get Energy. And in here, I list out a number of things you can do, but the 2 key ones I would focus on are the ATP 360, down here, the ATP 360 and this increasing glutathione. Okay. All right.
Is it important to take it at a certain time of day?
No.
Okay.
And these, no matter, it's not going to alter your sleep. In other words, they're not a direct stimulant, right? They're repairing. So they should not disturb your sleep.
Okay. All right. This is great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So I'm going to open it up. Does anyone else have a comment or questions about what I just talked with Colleen and I just discussed? Okay. If not, we'll move on to the next question here. All right. Hello, Kelly. I see you there. Yep. Hi, Marty. I've decided I want to do more intense diagnostics to target any treatments optimally and reduce potential adverse effects, knowing my sensitive nervous system. What are your thoughts on one, tick-borne illness, Galaxy corporate RNA testing versus Edgewhitebird's DNA testing study versus fish, other advanced testing via IGeneX? Okay. Number two, other infections and antibodies. So the molecular autoimmune panel versus a vibrant neural zoomer, and also how does one test for GABA antibodies? Okay. Those are good questions. I'm not sure we're gonna be able to answer all of it for you, but let me give you some thoughts here. So so just briefly to talk about testing. So when we talk about testing, we can break down the type of testing we do for infections in two ways. One is we can identify what are called direct tests, where you actually see some parts of the germ, okay? You test for those parts. Or we can do indirect testing, which is we're looking to see, has your immune system reacted against that germ, all right? All right. Indirect test would be antibodies like Immunoblots, Western blots, something called an IFA test. Those are all antibody measurements. Or the indirect test would be known as ELISpot test, which are measuring, have your T white blood cells ever seen the germ? Have they tried to fight it before? Okay, that's an indirect test, all right? All right. Direct testing would be a lab where we try to look for the germ under a microscope in the lab. And we can do that by attaching a fluorescent marker, and we call that a FISH test, fluorescent in situ hybridization, okay? Or we can try to measure the genetic material of the bacteria using a process called PCR, where we draw your blood, and then through a method called PCR, we try to amplify how much of that genetic material we can see. Or I'm not sure what Ed is doing with his new study, but I put it in the direct test method. Okay. But anyway, here's my point on where I'm going with this is the ability to find an infection is better with your indirect test. The problem with direct testing, whether it's a culture, you tag it and you look at it under a microscope, whatever you're doing is the germ has to swim by the needle when you draw your blood. Bartonella does not live in the blood easily. It lives inside cells. Borrelia tends to hide outside the blood. Babesia tends to sequester itself as well and only release parts into the blood periodically. So with direct testing, when you get a test back, it really means you got it because they saw it, okay? But the sensitivity, so sensitivity is the ability to find an infection when it's there. The immunoblots through IGeneX, that way of looking for antibodies, have a sensitivity of 95%, meaning they've done studies that tell us when somebody has these infections, their testing will find it 95% of the time. By comparison, none of these labs that do direct testing have ever been able to figure out what their sensitivity is. They don't know. They honestly don't know. And we know by experience, I know based on symptoms that often these direct tests miss what I know symptomatically is there, all right? So we have no idea how good these tests are. So if you're going to go looking to see if you have an infection, yes, you could do a Galaxy triple blood draw PCR test to see if you have the Bartonella in you, the DNA material of Bartonella in you. Yeah, or you could even do Ed Brightsford's new test, and I forget exactly how he's doing it, but I know he's doing something. You could do that, and it only has meaning if it's positive. If it's negative, it doesn't have meaning. So yeah, I mean, you could do the galaxy or see if you can get in Ed's new study that he's doing, or you could do an IGeneX fish. And yes, I know for your family, for instance, who has questions, that will give them proof. Okay. All right. But it's not the greatest use of your resources because the practicality is it misses it too often, basically. All right. Right. Does that answer that part of your question for you? Yeah. Okay. All right. And then in terms of looking to see if you have um, problems caused by these infections, like have the infections given you antibodies that are attacking your brain, that would be the molecular test. That's basically looking, do you have autoimmune reactions in your brain? Do we have markers of that? Yeah, you could do that. It doesn't tell you, though, what the cause is. It just says that you've got an autoimmune illness going on in your brain triggered by something, but it doesn't tell you the cause. You could say the same thing with the neural zoomer through Vibrant. All right. So yeah, you could do that. That would give your family evidence that you've got a brain condition going on, but it doesn't tell you the cause of that brain condition. And then GABA antibodies, I don't know how to test for this. I haven't seen anyone doing that. That doesn't mean it's not out there. I'm just not aware of it, basically. Okay. All right. Did that answer your question for you? Do you have any follow-up on that?
I do. Thank you.
Yeah.
Quick. There was something you said, one of the second type of indirect test, was it ELISA spot test or something else?
Oh, so your antibody testing, there's the newest way of testing for antibodies is the method called an Immunoblot through IGeneX. Okay, and basically with this is IGeneX grows proteins that have been found on these germs in the lab, and they grow them inside bacteria, so they just produce the proteins, and they clean them up. They remove amino acids that might hold on to antibodies that really were made against a virus that cross-react with Lyme or Bartonella, but they clean them up so that when you have antibodies stuck on these proteins that they detect, they really are against Lyme because they remove any amino acids in these proteins that might wrongly attract viruses. Okay, that's Immunoblot. Okay, Western blot is we grow bacteria in a lab, we kill them, and then we take their proteins, we put them on a test strip, and we run electricity through that test strip, and it literally causes proteins of different weights on the covering of the germ to deposit at different places. And where they deposit, we call those bands. So you probably have heard of band 31, band, right? And those numbers are what they weigh. So all the proteins deposited at 31 weigh 31 kilodaltons. That's where we come up with that. Okay. All right. Now that test is not as good as the Immunoblot because they're only testing against 2 strains. Immunoblot's testing against 8 strains of Lyme, for instance. Okay. And then the Western blot has a lot of false positives because these proteins at these different bands have crud that might hold on to a virus antibodies as well. Okay, all right. Then going one step further, there's another way of doing antibody testing, which is called an ELISA test. And the ELISA can be wrong about 50% of the time. It's more general than right. So ELISA is an antibody test. It's an indirect test. It's a method, the standard test that the DNA and the FDA have called for testing for Lyme involves 2 steps. You do an ELISA first on the blood, and if it says there might be antibodies against Lyme, then you come back and you do the Western blot. The trouble is the ELISA in chronic Lyme will miss Lyme when it's there 50% of the time. So their test misses 50% of cases because their first screen, the ELISA, misses it 50% of the time.
Okay. So my second clarifying question on the testing is, you mentioned the IGeneX blot testing has 95% sensitivity.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, ask a question about that, or maybe you need to clarify. I always forget sensitivity. There's different, measures of these things because that seemed a little misaligned with me in the part about, for example, we know my severe OCD symptoms, and you essentially informally have, I've essentially informally been clinically diagnosed with Bartonella, despite my IGeneX, IgM, and IgG came back negative, but you explained there can be a lot of cases where that doesn't actually mean you don't have it. But then you said 95% sensitivity. So I was like, oh, that made me feel like, oh, I guess IGeneX was right. There's no Bartonella. So I just want to.
So sensitivity means how good is it at finding something if it's there, right? So it has a 95% chance of finding it if it's there. That means it will still miss it 5% of the time.
Right. But that I guess some of the other times we've talked about this or other stats that I've seen about Bartonella made me feel more confident. Like, that because the whole point of me asking all these questions is, am I going to get treated for Bartonella after 20 years, just psych meds? And there could be implications of that. And so now I'm, I had been feeling like, okay, like there's pretty good case. Now I'm like, well, if it's only wrong 5% of the time, maybe my parents are right and there's nothing here and I shouldn't, take the risk.
So
I think that's not right, but I'm having trouble with the numbers.
So what I'm going to say to you, and unfortunately you have parents that are paying that are skeptical. I just have to say that. Okay. All right.
Yes.
I can't give you enough assurity that you have Bartonella to satisfy your parents. I'm just going to tell you that right now, and probably to satisfy you. What I do in situations like this, again, because the test will miss it 5% of the time, I'm looking at a person clinically.
Yeah.
And if the clinical parameters, the symptoms you're having, like, the mental health problems, pain on the soles of your feet's another common issue. You have Bartonella. Air hunger is another common issue that people have with it. Anxiety is another issue. Neuropathy. If there's enough symptoms that tell me, think Bartonella, even in light of a negative test, what I will tell a patient is, let's do an antibiotic trial and see if you get some improvements. And by doing that over a 2 to 4 month period, we may get some signs that we're onto the right way of doing this. Okay. All right. Second point. One of the reasons that you can have Bartonella or Borrelia and have negative testing is that as a result of having these infections, there sometimes is immune suppression that makes it so the immune system is not able to make the antibodies. And that as you treat over a 4 to 6 month period of time, if you go back in and do your testing again, often the test will convert positive, right? So in your situation, if you are my patient, I would say, okay, I get it. I get the skepticism here, but here's clinically why I think it's Bartonella. And what we might want to do is just try an antibiotic trial and see if you get improvements from it.
Okay. Yeah. And where I'm going with that is just thinking about potential risks and if there's psychiatric thing, that's, so. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Good luck to you.
Appreciate it.
All right. All right. Does anyone else have any follow-up comments here or questions about that? All right. Let's go ahead and move on here. All right. Hello, Diane. Let's see. What's the best way to detox during treatment? Explain the difference between sauna, infrared sauna, and the options for having that in your home, recommended products, any other methods or products to consider. Okay. All right. So detox is helpful, but I think it's overrated. Let me just start by saying that. Okay. All right. So people often think I need to detox because I feel bad. That's what it comes down to. Right. And there's an automatic assumption it's because I have toxins in me that I feel bad. So what I want to start by saying is that premise is wrong. The reason you feel bad in these disorders, whether it's, and even in mold toxicity, which is a toxin, but the ultimate reason you feel bad in chronic tick-borne infections, yeast overgrowth, even in mold toxicity, is that your immune system manufactures all these cytokines. And I've talked about cytokines before. It's what white blood cells make to turn on the immune system to try to attack that foreign thing better, whether it's infection or toxins, right? And those cytokines make you feel fatigued, make you ache, make you not think right, disturb your sleep, interfere with your hormone functions, all right? So what people often are calling I feel toxic is I feel too many cytokines. That's what you're really having, okay? All right. So first of all, I would focus on doing things to, obviously pull your toxins out. If it's mold toxicity, get your infections under control. but also be on things that deal with cytokines. So as many of you know, I like using something called curcumin. I like a product called curcumin phytosome by Thorne. It gets inside white blood cells. It interrupts the factory production of cytokines, all right? And that's a 500 milligram pill 3 times a day. Secondly, as part of my efforts to control cytokines, I have people take liposomal glutathione, all right? And we get 2 benefits out of that. One is what trifortified liposomal glutathione does is it blocks oxidation agents that tell white blood cells to make cytokines, all right? So you have curcumin on the inside of the factory going crazy and breaking the production line, all right? And then outside the factory, you have glutathione blocking the message that tells white blood cells to make all these excess cytokines, all right? Now, I want to be clear, it's not a complete block. I mean, it helps lower the levels, okay? Now, the advantage then also of using the glutathione is the lead detox agent used by the liver to move fat-based toxins out of your body, all right? So by being on glutathione, you also are aiding in detox. Now, the only thing and that will probably help get some of the mold toxins out as well too, but the only thing that glutathione is not good at doing is it does not remove mold toxins if you have them in you. To do that, you've got to take a binder, something that will hold on to those mold toxins when the liver moves them out. When the liver tries to process them, it's not able to detox them, but it still moves those mold toxins into your intestines where they can get reabsorbed again. So what you want to do is be on a binder like a GI Detox or a MycoPol that will grab hold of those toxins out in the liver so they can't be reabsorbed again. Okay, all right, then let's talk about saunas and heating up. So whenever you heat up, whether it's through a sauna, an infrared sauna, exercise, a hot bath, a hot shower, any of those things heat you up, that's going to help mobilize toxins in your body that are stored in tissues. And the effect of that is 20% of those toxins you mobilize from heating up are going to be sweated out. All right, so you get another way, a method of removing the toxins. You get to sweat out 20% of those toxins that you mobilized, okay? The other 80% go to the liver, and you still have to have your liver detox, and you still have to have a functioning intestines to poop out those toxins once the liver does it as well too, all right? So yeah, so I hope that gives you some ideas, insight here, basically, okay? Now, in terms of, the thing about infrared sauna, that may be better than regular sauna. If you are a person that doesn't like to sit in heat for long periods of time, the infrared may be better, right? Because you don't have to sit in it and you don't have to get as high of a temperature either. Infrared sauna uses infrared rays and it results in a heating that is the amount of heat you have on your skin, that how hot your skin surface is the same amount of heat that you have down to 3 centimeters into a depth of 3 centimeters. It's equal heating versus a common regular sauna is not penetrating that deep. So your skin surface is the hottest and then it dissipates as you go down. So you get better overall tissue heating by doing an infrared, and therefore you don't have to be in as long and you may not have to heat up as much, okay? But like me, for instance, I love to go sit in a hot banya sauna that's 240 degrees for 20 minutes. That is like the best thing I can do in my life to get that hot. Some people don't like that. If you're a person that doesn't like that, then go the infrared sauna direction. In terms of products, I don't have specific products that I recommend on that. I don't know which ones I would recommend on those two. All right. So Diane, did that answer your questions for you?
Yes, thank you so much. I'll start to research those. So I appreciate it. It really did. One other quick thing is as you probably, you might remember from me reaching out recently, I'm ready to start treatment, but unfortunately I just got was diagnosed with a sinus infection. And so I hate this, but I had to go on Augmentin.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to avoid having to take anything that might hurt the gut because my gut's been doing so well, but I am on your wonderful recommendation of probiotic metabolic daily. So that's been great. Should I wait until I'm done with the Augmentin to start up with, I'm already on Japanese knotweed, which I'm continuing, but to start up with the cinnamon, clove, oregano oil, and then eventually Cryptolepis?
So the Augmentin that you're on, it's great for the bacteria that give sinus infections. Okay, that's true. All right. The other thing, though, is it actually can kill the spirochete form of your Lyme germ. Right. So you're getting some Lyme killing. So my question is, all right, and remember to clarify, Lyme has 3 different appearances. There's the spirochete, there's a form that lives inside of your cells, and then there's a microscopic cyst form. These forms can either be growing or they can be hibernating, or we call those persisters. Okay, so I just want to go through terminology here. The Augmentin is only good at treating growing spirochetes. That's it. All right. So my question is, did you get a herx from being on it at all or not?
No, this is my first day. I literally just took my first pill. So I'm in day 1. However, I think my symptoms are much more the Babesia and the Bartonella. I have night sweats every night. And so I don't know that I'll necessarily get the herx right away from that.
Okay. So if I would say in a couple days, if you haven't herxed from being on it, I think you could go ahead and just start stepping into doing the cinnamon, clove, oregano next, like you and I had talked about before. The only reason I'm hesitating is, not that killing sinus infection is going to give you a herx. You usually don't, but the Augmentin may give you a herx from going after Lyme. And so just to kind of not clobber yourself too much, you might wait to see in 2 days, are you going to get a herx out of killing using Augmentin? Will you get some killing of spirochete Lyme and having a herx? And if it's not happening or not bad, then go ahead and start the liposomal cinnamon, clove, oregano.
Okay, great. And just last quick question is, my night sweats are so bad, but I don't want to get up in the middle of the night and shower all the time. So unfortunately, I try to just wipe it off and then get back to bed, but I feel like I'm reabsorbing all of what my body's trying to get out. Any ideas?
Other than wiping down periodic, I'm sorry, there isn't another way. And
you're
it's probably minimal absorption that you're getting back again of those toxins, to be honest with you. Yeah. I wouldn't get too carried away wiping down. You're welcome.
Sounds good. I really appreciate it. You're just wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Abby, I see your hand up here.
Yes. Hi, Dr. Ross. I have a follow-up question to that topic.
Sure.
You mentioned to control the cytokines to take glutathione and curcumin, but we can swap the curcumin for quercetin if we have mast cell, correct?
Yeah. So I guess what I'm kind of giving you is my recipe for the most common thing you would do, right? Which is curcumin and the liposomal curcumin, that curcumin phytosome from Thorn, plus the liposomal glutathione, the trifortify, all right? But if you happen to have mast cell activation, instead of using curcumin to control cytokines, you could use quercetin. Quercetin has 2 benefits. One is it stabilizes your mast cells, so it helps with mast cell activation. And in addition, in a similar way that curcumin gets inside white blood cells and limits cytokine production, quercetin does too. So you can get 2 benefits out of the quercetin, basically, and not necessarily need to take the curcumin then.
Excellent. And that would still be the Thorn quercetin phytosome brand, correct?
Yeah. Okay. And I hope you realize, the reason I represent certain products is I'm talking quality and benefit that I have seen. You've got to be careful in the supplement market. There's just a lot of garbage out there. And as an example, the New York Attorney General's office, I think maybe about 10 years ago, went and pulled products off the shelf at Costco. I think Walmart was one of the other places. And what they found is that I think it was like in 50% of the products, the key ingredients that were supposed to be there were not in there. And in addition, I think it was like 30 or 40% of those products had other ingredients that weren't even on the label, right? So you've got to be careful that you're using products that have been vetted and have a track record of putting good ingredients in. And regrettably, a lot of that comes down to cost. If you're buying something like a VitaCost product that's cheap, well, it's probably cheap for a reason, okay? So just keep those ideas in mind. As the reason I suggest certain products is I know they have worked in my practice. I've got a track record with them, right? And so that's why I suggest those. So anyhow.
Thank you, Dr. Ross.
You're welcome. Let's see here. Athena, I see your hand up there. Is this a follow-up to the existing question?
It is on the same
Yeah.
topic, actually. Sorry about the weird view supine
That's
today.
fine. That's fine.
NeuroProtect, do you still carry NeuroProtect in your store?
Yeah.
I just wanted to let you know, Dr. Theo Harides is actually
Yeah.
the manufacturer and algonaut of it. And
Yeah.
so I trialed it through you and then went through the cycle because many of us with biomechanical issues also have severe mast cell issues, which kind of just continue to perpetuate. And I want to say that I tried Ketotifen, I tried sodium cromolyn, I tried the cycle of them and never really noticed a difference, but always felt better with NeuroProtect. But of
Okay.
course, it wasn't readily available in Canada.
Right.
And increasingly, I've been using it. And also, my daughter's been using it, and her herxes have stabilized with babesia, which are just a huge win for her. So a lot of his lifelong work was related to the liposomal luteolin, as you know. And I just want to say I was on luteolin for a longer stretch, never really noticed a difference, but the liposomal luteolin that he manufactures, albeit expensive, I have noticed a difference with, and since then have taken it to my IM clinician, probably the only one in Canada. And I want to say the Ketotifen was like a staple that was used, very effective for some EDS patients who would dose up high to, I think, 4,000 and then 8,000 ultimately, really high doses slowly. But I think what he was surprised to read is actually the literature that I was summarizing for Dr. Theo, was about some of the mouse studies and how in human studies, when they translated them over, Ketotifen was not as strong and not as efficacy as high as in the rat studies. So that really surprised me and him. Yeah, there was a write-up on it, and I'm actually assisting him to see if we can prepare a clinician doc just to summarize first tier, second tier, third tier, the way they have for POTS, for example.
Right.
So like, I just want to remind people that if they can get access to your NeuroProtect long term, like it may be worth a try because it's just been,
And I have to go back and look and see. So let me make a comment to you, and then I want to make comments to everyone about the things you just said. So NeuroProtect, everyone, has in it something called luteolin. It has something called rutin in it, and it's got a little bit of quercetin in it. But the main ingredient is the luteolin. Rutin really just helps with the absorption of those. And the quercetin is just, it's minor, the amount that's in there. Luteolin, of all all of those are called bioflavonoids. And of the bioflavonoids, the most potent mast cell stabilizer is luteolin, basically. All right. And this is based upon Dr. Theo Harides' work. Now, the trouble with luteolin is a lot of it is made, I think, from fava beans. His product is made from a different source. It's clean. And so the NeuroProtect has a cleaned up version of the luteolin. And I know I do carry it at my store. I have to go back and look and see. I was not aware he was making a liposomal product now. So the liposomal would help increase the absorption of that, basically. All right. And then regarding some other things that Athena just said. So when you're managing mast cell activation, one of the cornerstones is stabilize the mast cell, get it so it's less reactive. And the herbs that do that are quercetin and luteolin. Those are the big ones. One of the prescriptions that does it is Ketotifen. Now, Ketotifen is only available in eye drops. And so if you're going to have it taken as a pill, you have to get it compounded by a compounding pharmacy. And it has two benefits. One is it stabilizes mast cells. Secondly, it's an antihistamine. So a second approach in managing mast cell activation is part one, stabilize your mast cells. Part two, block any histamines that they release. And Ketotifen is an antihistamine. It blocks the histamines after they've been released. So you get some benefit that way as well, too. Okay.
Two things I just want to say to your comments. One of them is, believe it or not, we have something available in Canada that you don't in the US, obviously, which is rare. That never happens. And that's that we can actually get Ketotifen at a pharmacy. Our version in Canada is Shoppers. So I'm stunned that we can get something that you can't. And then the second piece was, I just wanted to say also that the add-on to the quercetin on top, because there's some people dosing up the quercetin to 1,000 a day. I don't go that high, but I do notice when I add in 500 quercetin on top of the liposomal luteolin, that it is noteworthy. And there's
Good.
2 of us with really significant severe symptoms of different natures, and it's working for both of us. So that's something positive.
Good. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, good.
Thank you.
I just want to do a quick screen share, and then Elisa, I see your hand up there. I'm going to come to you next, but let me just do a quick screen share here. So again, we've just been briefly talking about mast cell activation, and if you guys want to read more about it, here's my article. It's called Mast Cell Activation Syndrome and Infections and Mold Toxicity. If you happen to have mast cell, I describe what it is, but then I walk you through the key things you do for it. Number one, get stress out. Stress is the worst stimulant of your mast cells, all right? Remove the things you're allergic to if you are, treat your infections, remove toxins, lower cytokines, block histamines, stabilize your mast cells. That's what we've been talking about here. I probably need to add Ketotifen to this list. I don't have it here right now, but anyhow, if you're looking for a place to start exploring if you have mast cells, or if you want input on how to treat it, take a look at this article here, okay?
Dr. Ross, sorry, I forgot the one other thing I was going to add. Some of us, some clinicians like Dr. Nathan loves Ketotifen, for example, but some of us, also don't find Ketotifen effective, or H1, H2 blockers. We find them completely ineffective because we're not histamine release people.
Right.
But we have a ton of other cytokines and issues with that. So I think that's really important for people to know. Don't give up if your H1, H2 blockers don't work.
Yeah. There's multiple ways to skin the cat, basically, too. So, and what works in one person may not necessarily work in another person as well, too.
And then I just wanted to ask, I may have missed it, if people replaced Alka-Seltzer Gold, which was available for the herxes and really helpful for a lot of other patients. I have no experience with that, but wondered if there's some kind of replacement for it.
Not that I'm aware of. I know that there's been a number of people that have been posting within Lyme United in my office hours about that, and I haven't really seen anyone suggest find a good alternative there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Elisa, I see your hand up there.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Ross.
Hello.
I'm actually here on behalf of my daughter. So my name is Petra, and I just wanted to ask something about the detox, because I've been trying to follow every step that you have highlighted on your website, and I was trying to do detox with her, but so we tried Epsom salt bath, and we tried the sauna. But now we also tried just a hot shower, but she has been complaining that she feels nauseous, like a heat nauseous. I don't know. She can't really describe it, but she doesn't feel actually well after being exposed to the heat. And I just wonder what is causing that, and how can I help her, and maybe how else should I detox?
Yeah. So the heat, so when you detox, if you detox too quickly, let me just start there. Okay. So one possibility is it's too quick of a detox. And again, when you heat up, that pulls all these toxins out of your cells and your fat tissues where they've been stored. And that movement of toxins may trigger more cytokines to be made. So it may make you feel worse at first, okay? So one is she may want to shorten she may want to lower the heat levels, or she may want to shorten the amount of time that she's doing it, okay? All right. Number two, some people are just heat intolerant at this stage in their illness. Their body systems are so out of whack that heat variations is going to be enough to make them sick, okay? And so if you can't find a lower amount of heat, or a lower amount of time and heat that she tolerates, then you might want to focus on not focusing on the sweating detox, but rather boost up the glutathione, like I was talking about earlier. Work at the level of the liver by supporting liver detox by taking glutathione. That may be the other way to do it.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much for all of your answers to me, and obviously to everybody. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Good. All right. Let's see here. We're going to move on. All right, Jim, let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. Thanks again for all you do. You're welcome. I need guidance on what to do about nervous system strain. I try to do as much exercise as I can, but if I push it a bit too much, I don't feel physically tired, but I start to feel nervous strain symptoms like wobbliness in my arms and legs and some disequilibrium. What can help with this? Also, should I try to slowly increase the amount of exercise I do, even if it means sometimes straining my nerves? Or am I better off not trying to push it? Would pushing it risk damaging my nerves or making overall nervous system situation worse? Okay, so it's a very common symptom that people with chronic tick-borne infections, mold toxicity, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, long COVID, all of these conditions have a condition called post-exertion fatigue. You could call it that. It's also, it can be known as neuromediated fatigue. And my general rule of thumb, not to trigger that, whether it's I feel worse with low energy the next day, or I feel worse in how my nervous system is working the next day. The key is finding the level of exercise you can do that doesn't trigger that. All right. So I'm going to the end of your question. I would suggest doing a level of exercise that doesn't cause that to happen. And maybe over time you should be able to increase it and periodically test it to see if you can go longer. But the reason you don't want to overdo it is it could lead to some injury. It may suppress your immune system as well too. All right. Now, there's a number of theories as to why you get this post-exertion fatigue or post-exertion neurologic. One of them is that activities stimulate the release of a bunch of neurologic chemicals that induce all the fatigue. That's one of the theories behind it. Okay. So my approach is, number one, do exercise you can tolerate, don't stretch it above it. And then try to fix the systems that are leading to this problem. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull up an article I've written so we can walk through it together. I think it's just going to be easier to do it that way. So let's see here. Yeah, we are. Okay, so here's an article that I wrote, I think earlier, towards the middle of last year. Marty Ross MD's solution for post-exertion fatigue and malaise. Okay. So one of the thing that you're describing is this neuromediated fatigue. Okay. And the main reason for this is inflammation and tryptophan levels are involved in this. All right. So the central nervous system causes neuromediated fatigue are inflammation and shortages of tryptophan. All right. So one of the things, and I want you to read through the rest of this, okay? But one of the things that you might want to do is start taking some 5-HTP to see if it will stabilize your nervous system, all right? I also talk about dysautonomia, meaning your adrenaline system does not work correctly. I talk about mitochondria dysfunction as a root cause. I talk about a number of things. And then down here, I talk about an approach that you can do to fix it, which is number one, get your infections and toxins out. Periodic fasting may make a difference here. Managing dysautonomia, if you happen to have a part of that, ashwagandha can be beneficial. Pacing and energy conservation, that's what I was trying to tell you, which is do what you can tolerate. Support your mitochondria. So a key part of this, and I would suggest this, is look at my ATP 360, look at the liposomal glutathione. I would suggest doing that for you. And then given I would focus on this number 9 for you of considering starting some 5-HTP to increase tryptophan levels as well too. Okay. Jim, did that answer your question for you?
Yeah, the one thing is, I feel fine the next day.
Yeah.
Let's say if I do a bit too much exercise, I'll feel that wobbliness in my legs and arms more towards the latter part of the day or in the evening. But the next morning, I'm fine.
Yeah.
So does that change what you're saying if you're okay the next day?
No, I think because you're having such an immediate reaction, I would still gauge it that way. I guess I probably should have framed it. So if you have a major reaction within 24 hours, that might be a better way of looking at it. Given that it's more neurologic that you're having with you, I would really, the two things I would focus on off of that article, get infections and toxins out, right? But then I would focus on that tryptophan stuff that I said, meaning take 5-HTP to deal with that shortage of it. And then I would look at the mitochondrial repair work if you haven't done that before.
Right. Because one thing that does seem to help with that is GABA.
Yeah.
Take some GABA, and that will help, especially with kind of the disequilibrium part of it.
Yeah.
Also, just quickly, I've gone back on the methylene blue and the fluconazole.
Yeah.
And I just I'm at a very early stage of it where I'm taking very little. I'm only taking 10 milligrams of methylene blue and 100 milligrams of the diflucan. If I'm taking that small amount, should I take them at the same time, or should I take them at different times?
Oh, you can take them at the same time. It makes it easy. It makes it easier in your life to take them together.
Okay, it doesn't make it any easier in my body though.
It's not going to make it harder on your body. I'll put it that way.
Okay. Good. Okay. Well, thanks again.
Yeah. Good luck. So everyone, what Jim was talking about, many of you may know, one of my favorite treatments for Bartonella is to do methylene blue coupled with an antifungal medicine called fluconazole, or a brother sister of it called itraconazole. And those treatments, based on, so where I got the idea to do that is based on lab experiments out of Johns Hopkins about 4 years ago. And in my practice, I was seeing some of the most profound results using that combination. For those of you that want to look more about that, take a look at my article on how to treat Bartonella, where you'll see that I emphasize it. And I'm just going to show that to you here real quickly. Let's see here. Under infection treatment plans, look at this, my ultimate Bartonella treatment guide. If you scan all the way down here, I have this block that says basically what my favorites are, okay? And for prescription, my favorite prescription option these days is methylene blue with fluconazole, all right? There's also a good herbal combination, which is cryptolepis, knotweed, and cinnamon clove oregano is another thing to consider there too.
Just quickly, while you're saying that, you sort of switched from the cryptolepis, knotweed, cinnamon clove oregano. It used to be the Ceta and the Houtinia.
Yeah.
Like, how much better is the new one than the old one in terms of, like, you gave percentages before?
No, it's good. You know, before, so again, there's newer research that came out of Johns Hopkins University about a year or two ago now, I guess 2 years ago now, that showed us in the laboratory that cryptolepis and Japanese knotweed are really good against growing and persister Bartonella, growing and persister Borrelia, okay? That was information I was not aware of before, and no one really knew that, all right? Most of us, when looking at herbal options, were following the guidelines of Stephen Buhner, who's a master herbalist. And his books and what he saw in his clinic was success for treating Bartonella using Sida acuta and Houtinia, just those two together. Those were his main Bartonella killers. I will tell you, I had good success using those. What I found in my practice, though, is that I had better success when I started working with the cryptolepis, Japanese knotweed, and cinnamon clove oregano. And the use of those was not available, known knowledge to Buhner before he died. So his books, resources don't include that information because there wasn't any science about that, all right? So I have found better clinical benefit not using the Houtinia and Sida as much anymore. I tend to recommend going with the knotweed, crypto, and the cinnamon clove oregano.
If, for example, knotweed doesn't really work for you, could you go like cryptolepis Houtinia with that?
Yeah, you could. Yeah. So the reason I like the three, so crypto and Japanese knotweed and cinnamon clove oregano are good because they address both growing Bartonella and they address hibernating persister Bartonella, right? When Buhner was alive, we really didn't know that these things called persisters were such a big deal in Bartonella. We now know they are. So we have to do things to address those. We don't have any research on Sida acuta and Houtinia showing that they do anything for persisters. I don't know if they do, right? So I want to make sure in my treatments, I'm going after persisters. The other thing about that combination of the cinnamon clove oregano is we know that with Bartonella, one of the reasons that treatment can be difficult is Bartonella develops biofilms, and they can be quite significant. And the cinnamon clove oregano has the ability to break down the biofilm as well too. So that's why it's the reason that I like those three things together now is that it gets at persisters. I don't know that Psittacuta and Houttenia do. I just don't know, right? And the cinnamon clove oregano also gets at this other layer that we have of biofilms blocking treatment. That's
okay.
why.
And if cinnamon clove oregano doesn't work for a person, what would be a substitute for that?
If you're to go after persisters and growing, crypto, not weed, would be enough. And then to get at biofilm, what I would probably suggest is a lumbar kinase, or okay. I would suggest a product by Research Nutritionals called BioDisrupt, which has a number of enzymes and herbs in it that work at biofilm in multiple levels. Okay, it's a more thorough way of going at biofilm than the lumbar kinase, and it would be 2 pills twice a day on that BioDisrupt.
Would Biocidin help?
Biocidin also works on biofilm in multiple ways. So yeah, Biocidin could be another option too.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right. All right. Let's see here. Move on here. Hello, Jackie. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. Every time I take herbal antibiotics or herbal antifungals, my bowels inflame with increased fecal calprotectin and fecal blood. After a few days or weeks, even at low dosages. Curcumin and tributyrin do not help. My non-Lyme literate GI specialist recommends corticosteroids or immune modulatory medication, but I'm afraid this will make the Bartonella and yeast worse. What do you recommend for this kind of IBD-like bowel inflammation? Yeah, good question. So I would probably, if you're my patient, but you're not, okay, but I just keep that in mind, okay? So one of the things I like working with these days is to work more at the level of the microbiome to help get this type of inflammation down. And to do that, I like to feed good bacteria, and I'll tell you how to do that in a minute. And I also like to use with a probiotic combination that increases the production of butyrate. All right, and butyrate is a fatty acid that helps heal, is the main fuel source for your colon cells. And if you give them more of this, it helps heal those cells back together so there's no gaps in them and can help get some of the inflammation down as well too. The product that I like that will do that is a product called Metabolic Daily by Pendulum. And the Pendulum product has in it Akkermansia, as well as 4 other bacteria that ultimately lead to more short-chain fatty acids being produced, including butyrate. Okay. I've had good success doing that. And in a situation like you're describing, I would do 2 pills 1 time a day. The Akkermansia that's in that product also promotes the growth and the usefulness of other bacteria in the intestine. So it helps refurbish your intestines with other healthy bacteria as well too. All right. Then you want to feed your good bacteria in the intestines. You need to give them good food. And there's 2 things that do that. One is polyphenols. Polyphenols are chemicals that are found in colorful fruits and vegetables. So if you happen to eat a very colorful vegetarian diet predominantly, you're probably getting them that way, all right? But if you don't have that kind of a diet, then you can take a polyphenol booster, which is made by Pendulum, and I would do 2 pills 1 time a day. Now, I want to be clear, a polyphenol is not a prebiotic, all right? It's just a chemical that feeds your bacteria, okay? Prebiotics are basically starch and sugar sources that we do not digest, but our bacteria do as a food source, all right? And so I would also get on a prebiotic, and that prebiotic is a prebiotic by, it's called Mega Pre, and I would do 2 pills 1 time a day of that. However, if you have a diet that is rich in fruits and vegetables and beans and legumes, you're already getting enough prebiotic fiber. Okay, all right. So that's where I would suggest going. And let me just, so you can read more about these recommendations, and I'll see if you have any other questions. I would take a look at my article on your gut microbiome. Hold on here. Is this article called Your Guide to a Healthy Intestinal Microbiome, even on antibiotics. And I would take a look at, let's see, I talk here about probiotics, I talk about prebiotics, and I talk about polyphenols, okay? And then down here, somewhere in here, I tell you what to take. This is where I start describing what's in the metabolic daily. It's got Akkermansia, bifidobacterium. And so I would follow my gut health action plan, which is try not to use antibiotics until you have to, all right? Second part is using, increasing polyphenols and prebiotics, either by taking the polyphenol and in your prebiotics or eating a plant-forward diet. And then if you have a lot of GI symptoms, I tell you, I call that leaky gut, and you would want to do this combination probiotic that I describe here, which is called Metabolic Daily. Okay. All right. So anyhow, I know there's a lot of meat in my microbiome diet, but I just wanted to show you the areas I would focus on in that. All right. Jackie, are you there anywhere? Do you have any follow-up question to that?
Yes, thank you very much. And yeah, I started Metabolic Daily in the polyphenols last week.
Yeah.
And how long do you suppose I should take them before restarting with the antifungal?
Yeah, I would probably do it about for a month and then try to do things again.
Okay. And do you think that it is the cytokines which are created by the antifungals that they cause the bowel, that they trigger the bowel inflammation, or do you think it's a different mechanism?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. And in a situation like this, though, I just start at gut rehab first, which is what I'm suggesting here, which would be prebiotic and the polyphenol, and then trying to be on a good probiotic like I suggested.
Okay. And one last question. I read that Bartonella can cause bowel inflammation of the deeper layers of the bowel and cause hypersecretion of mucus from the bowel. Have you heard about that? Or
that may be so, but what regulates your bowel wall is your microbiome. So rather than going at it with drugs, which you may need to do, I mean, there's sometimes we just have to pull out the drugs that your GI specialist is recommending. I'm suggesting trying to fix the microbiome makeup of your intestines first and see if that will take care of it for you.
Okay, yeah, then I will continue it like this for another month. Thank you very much. And
you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your knowledge and your
welcome
and patience. Thank you.
Yeah, good luck to you. All right, does anyone have a follow-up question to Jackie's question there? All right, let me move on here. Hello, Deborah. Let's see. I have jerks at night. They stopped when I stopped all meds. It seems it's between Cryptolepis, Mike P, and Artemisinin. Do you know which it would be? I will listen later if I don't have it. If I don't answer, I have an appointment. I have Lyme, Bartonella, Babesia. So, Deborah, I don't know which one it would be. And what I would do is, in a situation like this where I'm not sure which one it is, I start and stop, and by trial and error, try to figure out which one it is. So if you think it's those three, stop them all. And then gradually add one back in at a time and see which one's giving you the jerks at night, okay? There's a Marty Ross MD rule of medicine, which is anything can happen to anyone with anything, which is there are common side effects that we have to medications, and then there are the side effects that happen in us. And what I would describe to you is what you just described is not a common side effect to Cryptolepis, Mike P, Artemisinin, but one of those probably is giving you that side effect, okay? All right. So it's by trial and error. You just got to start and stop and figure out which one's doing it. All right. So Deborah, I don't know if you're here. I'll give you an opportunity in case you are still here. All right, I'm going to move on here then. Hello, Teresa. Good morning, Dr. Ross. Just got diagnosed with intermediate AMD. Is Lyme related to this? And is there anything I can do other than AREDS2 and diet and omegas? Can you tell me, what do you mean by AMD? I don't recognize those initials. Teresa, are you still here?
Yes, I am. I was looking for the unmute.
There you are.
Age-related macular degeneration.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
I have not, well, I'll answer that 2 steps. Number 1, I am not aware of any research showing a relationship between macular degeneration and chronic tick-borne infections. Okay. All right. And I would say it's not a condition I have seen with any of my tick-borne patients as well too. And keep in mind, I've treated thousands over 20 years, right? So there's some substantial base to me saying that. So I'm not aware of research showing it, nor have I seen it occur in my practice as well too.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to 3 years of fighting and going through all this Lyme. I finally feel like I shouldn't say might. I'm not on any treatment. I feel like I'm in remission.
Good
and then
for
I
you.
go to a regular doctor for checkup every 6 months, and
Yeah.
boom.
I know. And you know, as part of the, and it's hard because I mean, it's a hard, the macular degeneration is a hard condition because your vision is starting to go from that.
Thank God not yet, but
Yeah. But the thing that I always caution people to remember is that, you know, although Lyme can cause a lot of things, I mean, tick-borne infections cause a lot of things, we have to be careful in looking at ourselves, and even myself in managing people, is to not see Lyme as the cause of everything, right? So I call that putting our Lyme blinders on. We have to realize that people get common things that are not tick-borne related as well too. Yeah.
thank you.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Good luck. Yeah, good luck to you.
Thanks.
All right. All right, let's see. Oh, Kelly said to Colleen, you might appreciate Beth Kendall's sleep podcast. So I'm just going to share that with you here in case you didn't see that. Hello, Rita. Is there any connection between glutathione and Detox, and any specific reason for not being able to tolerate glutathione and zinc? So, Rita, are you having trouble tolerating glutathione and zinc?
Hi, yes, I am. So actually, I just got an IV, glutathione IV, a couple of days ago, and my neuropathy got much worse. And this is not the first time I'm having those issues. It was not that strong so far. So I'm just wondering if it's related or not. Yeah.
So let me just, I'm going to do a quick screen share here because we're going to look at something together here. So I know that you may be familiar. There's a doctor that is known for her expertise in treating mold toxicity called Jill Krista. Does that name ring a bell to you at all?
Yes, I know her. Yeah.
So she has recently been writing about, I think, when people have glutathione sensitivity, she's recommending, I'm thinking selenium, but let me just see if I can find it here real quick. Sensitivity and Jill Krista. I'm going to have to look into this. I'm not going to find it here real quick. So I know that she is recommending an additional, if you have glutathione sensitivity, it's because you're missing something. And I forget what the nutrient is. I'm going to have to look into that and see if I can share that with you at a different time.
Thank you. I can also look it up.
Yeah. See, so it's on it's a recent thing that she's been talking about, and I forget where I saw it, but yeah, if you can find it, I would share it with the group when you find it. It's a nutrient deficiency that will help if you have this problem, basically.
Isn't it related to sulfur allergy? Because
it's something to do with, Yeah, it's something to do with sulfur, but it's not an allergy. I forget what it is, but there is a
Okay.
nutrient you can take to help with it. Yeah.
Because what is interesting that I cannot tolerate zinc either. And I saw some research about the connection of sulfur and zinc intolerance, and it came up again when I was trying to do a research on glutathione.
And there is something with the sulfur, but again, there's a nutrient. I'm wondering, I know we have a number of other people here that might be aware. Is anyone here aware what Jill Krista is saying these days about doing this? I'm not seeing anyone respond there. We'll have to look into it a little bit more for you. Yeah.
Sure, thank you, and thank you for the tip. I can also look it up. And if I'm here, may I ask you if you have any advice on? I mean, I saw your article on neuropathy. But it's not certainly an advice on the supplements, but just the reason why it comes up again and again, even if I'm trying to treating the bacteria that I got never diagnosed with otherwise. Yeah.
So if I understood you correctly, you're wanting to know, why does neuropathy keep occurring? Is that correct?
Yeah.
So, there's a number of things. So first of all, the Borrelia and Bartonella, if you happen to have them, can infect the nerves and cause them not to work correctly. That's one. Okay. Toxins, if you happen to have those, are also going to directly affect nerve function. And so until you get those out, you've got these things that are bad for your nerves, basically. Okay. All right. Number two, the inflammation chemicals, these cytokines, can interfere with how neurologic function occurs too. So, ultimately, you got to get the infections and the toxins out. And until you do, you may still have trouble. Now, while you're still treating them, there are things you can do to support nerve function to help them work better while these insults are still happening. And those are the kind of things that I talk about in my article, which is the ATP 360 to support the nerve membrane and your mitochondria function in the nerves. And then glutathione, which I know you're having trouble with, but glutathione, raising glutathione is another part of that as well too. The other thing you might, if you can't find Jill's stuff, sometimes people that have trouble tolerating glutathione can take one of the glutathione precursors, which is called N-acetylcysteine, NAC. And NAC is a building block for glutathione. So you may not tolerate the glutathione, but you may tolerate naturally raising glutathione in you by doing NAC. 500 milligrams 3 times a day is what I would do on that.
Okay, 3 times, because I'm taking it, but only one time, 500 milligrams.
I would increase it up. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Can I just have a follow-up question? It's not critical. It's just out of curiosity, because I read a lot about the glutathione and nebulizing it on your website. And I tried it with my daughter because she was having injections, as I mentioned before, but that treatment has stopped and I wasn't actually able to go back to it. So but I did have my hands on the kind of the liquid injections, and so I tried for her to nebulize it, right? But she was getting dizziness. Could that be from nebulizing, or is that the glutathione, or what would be the reason for that?
So tell me,
And
what
should
was
I
she
then
getting?
stop?
She got what?
She got very dizzy.
Dizzy when she was nebulizing a glutathione.
Yes.
Have you tried it a second time just to see if it happened again or not?
Oh, I kept her on it for 2 weeks, Dr. Ross, because I really wanted her to get the glutathione. So I kept her on it.
Yeah, but
then,
every time she would nebulize, she would get dizzy on it.
Yeah. And I don't know if she was just doing it wrong as a child, because then I tried it myself and I didn't have that issue. So I really didn't know if I should stop the medication altogether or.
Yeah. I honestly, it sounds like what you've described through the other questions too. It sounds like your daughter's very sensitive to things medically. her body is sensitive to things, right? So,
Okay.
you know, and there are people in these illnesses that are just sensitive to taking anything, and anything can imbalance, even good things can imbalance them in a sense, right? So the general approach that I take when anyone is sensitive to things is to go low and slow.
Right.
So you might, two things about that. Number one, if she can't do the nebulization because it just might be too much glutathione she's getting that way. So one thought is decrease the amount you give her in the nebulizer and see if she'll tolerate it better. Okay. All right. Number
Okay.
two, don't nebulize, either give it orally or do the NAC that I was just talking about, 500 milligrams 3 times a day to raise glutathione, basically.
Okay. Okay. Thank
All
you
right.
very much. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Hello, Timmy. Let's see. So for purposes of convincing treaters to assist in Lyme treatment in areas with no experienced treaters, what testing would you recommend? Yeah. So Timmy, what I would look at is the it's hard to convince people to do what's the right thing to do. I just want to acknowledge that, okay? But your test that has gotten some validity because one of their tests now finally is approved by the Food and Drug Administration is IGeneX. IGeneX now has had approval by the Food and Drug Administration to sell their Immunoblot to labs for their IgG Immunoblot test for Lyme, right? Which means the FDA, the federal government, has approved their method as being a valid way to do it, all right? And so with that, because what you're going to find is, so the reason I like IGeneX Immunoblot is it will find your infections if they're there 95% of the time, okay? But because it's an independent lab, and for all of its testing it does not have FDA approval. You only need FDA approval if you're going to sell your kit to another lab, okay? To do your test in-house, you don't need FDA approval. But doctors wrongly believe that testing is not good if it's not FDA approved. All right? They're wrong. An independent lab, if they've done good validation studies themselves, as IGeneX has, is a good lab. But doctors think that if they don't have FDA approval, that it's not a good lab. That's not so. But what you can do now is you could get the IGeneX Immunoblots for Bartonella, Borrelia, and Babesia, take it to your doctor when it's positive, and they're going to say, well, I don't trust that lab. Then you can say, well, that's interesting. The FDA just approved their method on this one test, which they call the IDART test, IDART. That test, which IGeneX sells to independent labs, now is FDA approved, meaning their methodology and the quality of the lab is FDA approved, okay? That would be the way that I would go about it and see if it makes a difference.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Good luck. Did that give you enough information there, Timmy?
On that, yes. I listened to an answer that when you talked about the touching earlier, so I was satisfied probably from that prior answer, but I appreciate your addressing it now.
Yeah. And then take a look. I have my article. You might even print off the article and bring it to your doctor too, that explains what I consider to be the best test. That I think I don't know if I showed this to you earlier. Let me go back here. So, and I may need to update this article, so I throw in that the IDART is now approved. But if you're looking at my article on best testing, it's this article, Best Lab and Test for Borrelia, Bartonella, and Babesia. And in here, I explain why the IGeneX Immunoblot is valid. It does not have the recent information that this technique for their Borrelia test has now FDA approved. But anyhow, that might give you something to bring into them as well, too.
All right. I have had the Elisa.
Yeah.
And I have an immune disorder.
Yeah.
So I think that increases the likelihood that it won't show what's there. I did send
it does, but the problem with the Elisa is it's going to miss it 50% of the time anyhow. It's like not testing. So yeah.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, let's see here. Teresa, and she sent this message to, oh, I see what happened. So, Teresa, you sent the message to me so everyone can't see it. So in the future, everyone, when you write questions, it helps if you send it to everyone so y'all can see it. Okay, so I'm going to read this one out loud. So Teresa says, hello, I'm new to the site. I have an IGeneX test from 2022 and also a current IGeneX test. Would you have time to look over both of these tests and answer a few questions? I can attach the test for review. So let me just see. I'm not sure if this is going to work here. Let me double check here. All right, so tell you what, Teresa, I think I'm trying to figure out how to use my time effectively here. Here's what I would appreciate if you would do for me. It's going to be hard to display this in a way that everyone can see it. Is there a way that you can write your questions to me and upload these test results using the photo as an image and post your question along with these tests in office hours with Marty Ross MD? I think it's going to be a better way for me to handle this question here, okay?
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, so what you can do is there's a way to attach, you can just attach these using the photo function there, basically, okay?
Photo function, okay.
All right. And if you have any trouble with that, let me know, but that I think it's just going to be an easier way for all of us to look at that then too.
Yes,
okay?
Thank you. I knew you were running out of time. It was getting close, so.
It is getting close here. I don't know if many of you know, but I had two dogs that both passed away this last year. That's them behind.
Aww.
That's Halo and Thor. And I just 2 weeks ago, I went out and got a new dog from the dog pound, and his name is Blue, and Blue has been pestering me here for the last 15 minutes, saying I got to go out, I got to go out. And I don't think he has to pee. I think he just wants to go out and play. So anyhow, yes, I will have to end this soon to get Blue out so that he can have a good time outside. But yeah. All right, let me see if there's anything else we can answer here quickly. All right, I'll do one more here. So this is from Emily. Emily says, good morning, Dr. Ross. Would you consider the following IGeneX results positive or negative for Lyme? Was wondering if you would consider an IGeneX Immunoblot test with IgM 23 band positive, IgG band 41 indeterminate, and band 45 positive, a positive Lyme test. So the answer is no, I would not. So let me just quickly walk through that. Okay. So on what we're interested in is, do you have antibodies against certain proteins found on the covering of the germ? Okay. And there are 6 that are important. And if you have antibodies against 2 of these 6, we consider a positive test. All right. And so you look at your IgM test independent of your IgG test. So if you happen to have one band on an IgM and another one on IgG, you don't add those 2 together to come up with your result. Okay. You keep them separate. Okay. And the 6 important bands are 23-25. They're calling it band 23 here. 31, 30, I'm sorry, do that again. 23, 25, 31, 34, 39, 41, and 83-93. If either on your IgM or independently on your IgG, you are positive against 2 of those 6, we call that a positive test. And that's actually the method that with the IDART test that the FDA finally approved IGeneX for as well too. So that was monumental because that means the FDA now is looking at new criterion that IGeneX got them to look at basically too. Okay. Yeah.
I really appreciate that because a lot of my questions have been pregnancy related. So I'm trying to figure out if I need to treat for Lyme throughout that. And it was very good news. My doctor that did the test was like, it's negative. And I was like, I feel like I need many people to reassure me that that is in fact correct. What
I would say is it's negative, but I want to just give you a caution on that. If you were to have, knowing that you have some tick-borne infections, which means you had a tick bite. All right. I already know that. Okay.
Yes.
All right. If you have enough symptoms suggesting Lyme, I would interpret your IgM as weakly positive.
Okay. That's helpful to
I
know.
hope you hear what I'm saying. I'm saying the test technically is negative.
No, I hear that, but that's my concern. And because I've been treating for Bartonella and Babesia, and that is becoming more and more successful, like I'm more and more symptom free.
Right.
This is why I was really curious. Yeah. So you're saying
so that's the clinical, it's the clinical nuance, which is you have to interpret your test result based on who is sitting in front of you, right? What their history is and what their symptoms are. So yes, you got obvious. I mean, it's not common for somebody to have antibodies stuck on band 23. Now, could it happen for a false positive reason? Maybe. The way we get around having a false positive result, though, is by requiring 2 of those 6 bands. Okay, all right, that's why we require 2. But could it still mean maybe you are having an immune reaction, but it's just a little bit weaker? Yeah, could be. Yeah.
So then would you recommend treatment during pregnancy with that result if I'm not symptomatic?
That's a hard one.
Okay, so there might be some reason to treat potentially.
There might be the difficulty. I guess I would need to. I know you've told us your story before. I'm just not remembering all of it. So,
that's okay. I don't expect you to remember everything.
But you know, if you had a strong case for me to think that you might have gotten Lyme transmitted to you, I would say, to protect your baby, go ahead and be on an azithromycin or an amoxicillin.
Just preventatively.
However, I have to acknowledge that, well, although those do work effectively to prevent transmission, your baby's immune system is greatly influenced by its own microbiome at birth. We are starting to understand the importance of not disturbing babies' microbiome at birth. So on the one hand, you want to prevent Lyme. So do you have enough to really say Lyme? Do you get where I'm going here?
Yes.
Then maybe that is worth the risk of hurting your baby's microbiome at birth and what that might do your baby's immune system down the road.
Right.
I don't have a clean answer for you. You get where I'm going? Yeah.
Totally. I really appreciate it. I know it's a huge gray area, so thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Good luck to you. All right, everyone. That's it for me for today. I know I didn't get through all your questions, but I hope that you all got benefit out of what we did get through here tonight or today. It's not tonight, it's a today. Yeah. Anyhow, I wanted to let everyone know something too. So you may have seen I've changed a little bit of the format in the last few days on how I'm responding to questions in office hours with Marty Ross MD. And I'm writing them in a way that's based on a style that is called smart brevity, which is I put a title up right away to say what I'm going to talk about. I give you one sentence to give you the key takeaway point, and then I do a lot of other explanation in there. I'm doing that because I think it's a better way of getting information out. But at the end of each week, what my plan is to take the top 10 responses of the week and cut and paste and turn it into a newsletter that I'm going to send out to all of you, as well as to anyone that wants to know about this stuff, basically. Okay, so I'm writing to be more concise in my responses, but I'm also writing so that I can repurpose it so I can put it in a newsletter and other people will get benefits too. So keep an eye out for that. I'll let you know when I get my first newsletter out on that then too. Okay. All right. Bye, everyone.